Hello everyone, I am the analyst and this is your MLS preview for 2016. So, it's the MLS preview. The first weekend of games happened to be last weekend. So I'm a tad bit late. But at the same time, I got to see what teams look like. I got to see what might be good and bad things going forward. I also got to really evaluate a couple of the off-season moves for these squads. So let's jump right into it and look at last year's standings. Now, in the West, we have FC Dallas finishing in first with 60 points. Vancouver was tied for second with Portland, even though Portland ended up getting the third seed due to goal differential at 53 points. Seattle was in fourth and tied in points with the LA Galaxy and Sporting Kansas City at 51 points. That was interesting. It was an extremely tight race last year. Teams that missed the cut: San Jose at 47, Houston at 42, RSL at 41, Colorado at 37. Looked for Colorado to be a better squad this year, but that's beyond the point. It's going to be another tight race going forward. As it was last year. The Western Conference is still as competitive as it's ever been, and on top of that, the teams have only gotten stronger, especially teams like the LA Galaxy, who added some key pieces. And FC Dallas stayed young. So let's take a look at the Eastern Conference. Now, from last year, the Red Bulls had 60 points. They were tied. They were at the top of the table. Columbus Crew was at 53. Montreal was at 51, as well as DC United. New England was at 50. Toronto was at 49. Teams that missed: Orlando City barely missed. NYCFC managed to miss as well. Philadelphia Union missed, and the Chicago Fire were obviously the worst team in the MLS last year and are looking to change things going into 2016. Now, looking at who ended up winning the MLS Cup. Portland beat Columbus 2-1. They had a great ceremony this last weekend with an amazing tifo done by the Timbers Army. Our banner was posted high in the rafters. It was fantastic, and we ended up beating them in the first week 2-1 as well, so that made things even better for this coming season. But we'll get to that game recap when I start my MLS Weekend Review in my next video. For now, this last season was great. We got a little bit of a recap of last season. Let's look at where I think teams are going to be in the table for this next year. Starting, we're just going to look at the top 6 for each league, kind of determining which teams make it or don't make it. I don't think covering the bottom 4 of each conference is going to be that big of a deal. So, starting in the West, I think Vancouver's going to end up winning it this year in terms of the best shot of winning the Supporter Shield out west. I have FC Dallas in second, still the best core talent in terms of homegrown players that you will see in the MLS, and they're only going to continue to grow. Now, Fabian Castillo got hurt recently, this past weekend, but I still think they got enough moving forward to be a great team. And they just have great depth and great coaching. So we'll definitely see FC Dallas be successful. I have Portland in third again. I can't be a homer and think they're just going to have the best record. They have two competitions to play in, and as well as trying to keep themselves in the playoffs for the 2016 season. They have to be in the Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League. We managed to add some pieces, such as we just signed on loan this Leicester City left winger slash midfielder, who's going to be pretty decent for us, I think, coming off the bench and giving us some depth for this. And of course, we have the U.S. Open Cup, which we would prefer to play well in as well. I have Seattle in 4th, Sporting KC in 5th, and the Galaxy 6th. Now, the Galaxy signed a lot of players. I don't necessarily think that's going to result in them moving up the table. However, I don't think they're going to be out of the playoff race either. It's just such a crapshoot in the Western Conference right now that easily they could be top of the Western Conference for most of the year and drop down without taking, with just 2 losses in a row. They could find themselves sitting in 6th. That's how crazy the Western Conference is. Looking at the Eastern Conference, I think the New York Red Bulls are going to end up winning, per se, getting the number 1 seed. I have the Columbus Crew coming in 2nd. Kai Kamara, Higuain, Will Trapp, they'll figure it out. Even after their loss to Portland this past weekend, they'll have no trouble at all, I don't think. They'll still make the playoffs, and they'll be probably up there in the top 3 or so. I have Toronto moving up to 3rd. Now, this is great for Toronto. They've had some extremely bad luck in the playoffs, but luckily they have Sebastian Giovinco, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, and now Will Johnson coming in bringing some much-needed experience. So that is a great thing. Expect them to be a lot better this year and to have a better record for sure. Coming up in 4th, the first expansion team out of them and NYCFC, Orlando City. I think Orlando City is going to end up getting 4th. Kaká's going to be more of an influence this year now that he's had a year in the MLS. I think Kyle Lauren's freshman year was not a fluke. He had 10-plus goals. It was great for Orlando City, and I think this year they'll figure out what to do and not let as many games get away from them in the last 20 minutes or so as they did last season. I have DC United in 5th. They're coached great. You find them more often than not being staples in the playoffs. Staples being a mainstay, always there. They're well coached, not a ton of star talent by any means, but going forward they're going to be doing just fine. Now, my last team to make the playoffs, I think it's going to be Montreal. As much as I'd like to rag on Montreal for the fact that Drogba is not going to be playing on turf starting out, a lot of people are like, oh, why rag on that? All fields should be regular grass as it is. To be fair, it's the MLS. There are multiple climates. You just have to get used to it. So it's kind of a bummer to see Drogba will be missing a lot of matches this year because of that. However, I think Piatti and company will be just fine, and they will push Montreal into the playoffs. So, looking at some teams I think you guys should definitely pay attention to going into this next season. Teams to watch. In the West, first of all, FC Dallas. Fabian Castillo last year had 10 goals and 7 assists. Like I've mentioned, they are the best group of young talent and homegrown players in the MLS, and are only going to be getting better and better as the years go forward. Keep an eye on FC Dallas, and they're just fun to watch in general. Second team to watch, Vancouver. A guy that I like to point out is Kekuta Mane. Excuse me, my American pronunciations once again. He had 7 goals and 5 assists last year. Him getting hurt in the playoffs against Portland was massive, and ended up swinging that match and making Vancouver feel that they really didn't have much of a chance. So I do think Vancouver is going to be better this year. They added some talent. Look out for them. Also, number 3, Sporting Kansas City. They have one of the best fan bases out there, rivaling that of Seattle and Portland in Cascadia. Keep an eye out for them. They are going to be a great side going into this season. You'll see them make the playoffs. Also, keep an eye on Tom Dwyer. He had 12 goals for them last year. Had some great hookups with Graham Zusi. They also have some experienced defenders in people like Bessler. So keep an eye on Sporting Kansas City. In the East, obviously Orlando City, Kyle Lauren had 17 goals this last year. Orlando City is going to continue to be an exciting squad. Keep an eye on them. The Columbus Crew had Kai Kamara get 26 goals and 6 assists, and that's including the playoffs. He was brilliant for them. Columbus is going to continue to be a force going into this season. And of course, third, the MLS MVP, Sebastian Giovinco, and the Toronto FC squad that will be emphatic in this season and I think make a great push for a top 3 seed. Giovinco had 22 goals and 13 assists in the regular season last year. Let's go to my predictions for the best 11 of this season. My starting 3, starting from left to right, I have Lucas Milano. I think is going to be huge for Portland this year, and he's going to show himself to be one of the most dynamic attacking forwards in the league. Kai Kamara, I have up there as well. Already just mentioned him playing for Columbus and how many goals he had last year and how he will continue to be a great target man. Also, on the right, I have Giovinco. Now, obviously, these guys are not necessarily in their spots, but they're attacking players, so I have them in my front 3. Giovinco was the MVP last year. He will be, once again, one of the best players in the league. In my midfield, I have Kaká. He is going to once again be a dynamic force for Orlando City. Expect him to be up there in the assist numbers this season. Expect him to get about 10 goals as well, I think. This Orlando City squad is going to be tough to deal with and is going to be a staple of the Eastern Conference for years to come. So keep an eye on that. I have Darlington Nagbe in the middle, Portland Timbers midfielder. One of the best creators right now in MLS. His assist numbers will be a lot higher than they were last year, I think. And just the fact he opens the field up so much for the Timbers, especially on the counter, getting the ball out to the wingers and pushing forward, I expect him to be one of the best players this year. Fabian Castillo, I still have as one of my best midfielders, even though he got injured this past weekend. I think going forward he will still have a huge impact on this season for FC Dallas. My back 4, I have Hollingshead from FC Dallas. At left back, specifically, I think, we lost a lot of left back talent with Villafana of Portland going to Santos Laguna of Liga MX. So trying to pick a left back was a little bit difficult. However, Hollingshead had some bright moments last year. I expect him to continue to play well and be one of the better players of this season. I have Bessler from Sporting Kansas City as one of my best center backs. He's going to be brilliant, I think, again, for Sporting Kansas City and push them to probably silverware in the U.S. Open Cup, if not, make a deep run in the playoffs. At my other center back position, I have Chad Marshall from Seattle. He continues to be one of the best center backs in the league, and he has held that back line together for Seattle now for a couple years at least. So I think once again he'll be a mainstay in people's best 11s. At right back, I have Alvis Powell of Portland. Yes, I have put 3 Portland players in here, but Alvis Powell has turned out to be one of the best right backs in MLS, and he's still very young. I think he only just turned 21. So expect him going forward to be easily one of the best defenders in the league for a couple years, if not years to come, depending on if he decides to go to a different league. And of course, as one of the best goalkeepers in the league, I think David Ousted of the Vancouver Whitecaps will have another fantastic season as he did last year. Expect him to continue to play really well. He, was up there in shutouts with Quarce and Stephen Fry of the Seattle Sounders. So don't expect anything less. This has been my MLS season preview for 2016. I think covered all the bases. So anyway, thank you for watching. I am the Analyst32. You can follow me on Twitter at theanalyst32. You can like and subscribe to this page if you see fit and want to see more MLS coverage throughout the season. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the other side of the pitch. Have a good one.